Turn 1 Soul Ring.
So, how's it going, buddy?
Not so bad. How are you?
I'm good.
Where's my episode outline here?
Yeah, do you want to find that?
I have it. Here we go. Sweet.
You got it? Do you have your gain turned all the way down? I'm just kidding. I can see that it's turned all the way down.
So is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hello
Yes.
and welcome to another episode of Turn 1 Soul Ring, the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Eric.
And today on the show, we are going to be Dexplaining Eric's Ayara First of Locthwain Commander deck. But before we get to that, we do have a few things to cover. Anyone who pays attention to the BNR Banned and Restricted announcements knows that on October 7th, the last one, there were no changes, but they did move up the next one to this upcoming Monday, which is it's October, that would be October 21st, I believe. Yes, because we're recording this on Saturday.
So we'll miss that one by
Yeah,
a few episodes.
But nothing looks like it's going to get banned in Modern. But
I think Modern's in a decent spot right now.
yeah, it does sound like Field of the Dead is a definite prospect for banning in whatever standard.
Standard.
Like, yeah, I know. I don't play standard. That's why I'm like, what format is that?
Huh?
Yeah, that looks like it could get banned. And there's also some talk of Oko possibly getting banned as well, right?
Yeah, that card's not the most fun to go against.
Yeah, and you can get it out on turn 2 with a Gilded Goose, right? Because you create the food token 1, and then you tap, get your Oko, and then if your
Turn 2, 6 loyalty Planeswalker.
That's right. And if your opponent has a artifact or... Because you plus him to get the food token, and then you minus him to
It's
like
plus
polymorph.
2 for the food and plus 1 for the polymorph.
Oh, it's a +1. Wow. we were wrong about that card.
Yeah, we were.
But you know what? I was thinking about it in the world of Commander, but even in Commander, it's pretty good because you're doing like that polymorph thing.
Yeah, you're turning off like a permanent once a turn.
And you're also like, that's really good against somebody's commander, right? Like cards like Darksteel Mutation or Song of the Dryads. You know, that's really difficult to deal with. Like you need a way to sacrifice. Well, Song of the Dryads is better because it's a land, or like Imprisoned by the Moon is a land.
Yeah.
So you can still block, or you can just make a deal with a player to trade.
And get it back. You still have to recast and stuff again.
Of course, yeah. No, it's definitely hobbling.
But yeah, that Oko seems pretty decent.
Yeah, no kidding. Yes. So, yeah, both those might get banned, but it's more likely that Field of the Dead will be banned.
I think so for sure, yeah. That deck is super explosive.
And in Commander, I don't think anything. I think Biorhythm might get unbanned, because why is that banned?
Sure, yeah.
but yeah, I don't know that anything else has been super oppressive in Commander since they banned Paradox Engine.
No, I don't think so.
I haven't heard of anything
like
that, but we will definitely see what they say on Monday. Oh, you know what? I also wanted to mention this episode's gonna come out on Monday, October 21st. But to those of you, to our Canadian listeners, we do have the federal election on Monday. So I don't know when this is gonna come out on Monday. So you might not hear this until after the time when you could have gone to vote. And Eric and I aren't taking a political stance here, but just get out and vote.
make sure that voting is important.
That's all we're
always.
saying.
So
yeah.
Make sure you get out there, vote.
Yeah.
Make your voice heard.
Whoever you're voting for.
Just vote.
Just get out there. And I think all you need is a piece of photo ID and a piece of mail that has your name on it.
Yeah.
That matches your ID.
2 kinds of
you just have
to verify it.
Yeah, you have to prove that you're in that riding and also that is where you live. But even if you're not registered to vote, you can just go down to wherever you are. And if you just go to electionscanada.ca probably
it'll just show you
something. It'll show you where to go. But moving on, I don't remember what episode it was. I think it was one of our top 10 episodes. I was talking about Decimate and how you didn't need 4 targets. You didn't need to fulfill for the enchantment, land, creature, and artifact targets.
I think we may have even cited a few episodes.
Probably, yeah. I love
just
Decimate.
it, yeah.
It's a great card.
You're like, don't gotta.
Don't gotta. And I was playing a game at one of our local game stores recently, and I played it, and I only chose two targets. And I'm like, no, guys, you don't need 4 distinct targets. And they're like, yes, you do. So I called a judge, and it turns out that that on Gather, it says you no longer need 4 distinct targets. But what that actually means is if you have a permanent that has 2 permanent types, like an enchantment creature,
You can use that as both.
So you can target that and then a Soul Ring and a
Land.
land. And that's 4 targets. They're just not 4 different targets.
Yeah.
So you still need to target 4 things, just that's how the card works. So
Cool.
Hopefully no one's run into that situation. Still a fantastic card. Do we want to do an update on the Commander League? We've played
we played another round.
We played our 3rd round since last we spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might as well. I went last again.
You went last again, so you got to choose 3
which is a bonus.
achievements.
So
That is,
like that.
yeah, that's definitely a bonus. Because in Commander, like, it always feels bad to go last, but is it really that much of a disadvantage, right? Because you're drawing a card just like everyone else, right? You're a land behind, but as the game progresses, things do kind of even out. People miss land drops. People may
still list land drops, but like it's still that those people have been able to act before you all the time as well.
Yeah,
so
that's
there are
true.
certain things that just get you more value that way. So
yeah. But I certainly don't think it's as severe as it sometimes seems.
yeah.
Yeah. But I agree that yes, you are last in priority. Sometimes.
Yeah. But it's twice in a row. Just feels a little bad.
Yes, but you did get to
Pick some achievements.
Yeah, you do get to craft like the points that you're going to get a lot more. And you did get 3 achievements?
I got 3 of the achievements, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 of the ones I chose and one of the ones you chose.
One of the ones I chose, yeah. It was destroying a soul ring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just like destroyed my soul ring like it was nothing. Like you didn't even need to destroy it. And it was bad for me.
Yeah.
It was really bad for me. Like I needed that mana.
I didn't think of it like that. I was like, I want that 3
Yeah,
points.
you just wanted the 3 points. Yeah, yeah. Which is why we have the points, right? We're trying to change the way the game works. But that hurt. It hurt just because it was so callous, and it wasn't like, it wasn't like I was doing super well. It was just like, there's a soul ring, I'm doing it.
It was also like turn 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I was like, sweet.
It was an early soul ring.
I'm just gonna get the points.
Yeah. So yeah, Trevor changed his commander to Crick, son of Yawgmoth, which I think is a good move. That's what I would have done had I gotten that deck. Everyone else's commanders stayed the same. Mm-hmm. At one point in the game, you were going to cast, you did cast your Leyline of Anticipation.
Yeah.
And Riley played Sudden Substitution on it.
Yeah.
And he exchanged your Leyline of Anticipation with a 1/1 creature token. I think it was a plant.
Yeah, because he had the
grave mold.
Yeah, something like that.
Something mold's in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Grismold. Yeah, so it was a 1/1 green plant token that gave me for my Leyline of Anticipation I tried to cast. So I was not happy about that.
And he had a Seedborn Muse, and he just after that he just had a lock on the game.
It was hard to stop him.
It was because he could he had Stratostancer, so he could counter multiple instants and sorceries on each of our turns. So we really couldn't deal with what he was doing.
He would play Stratostancer and then like flip it face up, and then using he had that artifact, I think. I can't remember what let him bounce it.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, what let him bounce things to his hand.
But then he could bounce it and then like replay it. And then if you killed the Stratostancer, he would just morph up his Den Protector to get it back from the graveyard.
Exactly.
So he had this just loop going on of just like, I can get whatever card I want out of my graveyard and I can just counter whatever spells and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to deal with his board state, and I cast Mystic. I can return as flashback as well.
Yeah, you can return a card from exile to your hand with flashback. You can return a card with flashback from exile to your hand, I think.
Yeah, I can do that. And that got countered. So yeah, I was going to cast Mystic Retrieval, which also has flashback with it, to return instant or sorcery card from my graveyard.
Okay.
So I was trying to return a card, and he's like, nope, counter. And I was like, well, flashback it. And he's like, nope, counter. And I was like, but board wipe? He's like, nope, counter. And I was like,
I'm out of mana.
I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, and there was one last turn where we were trying to get him to use all his mana, but we just couldn't We just couldn't deal with it. It was just too it was too efficient, and he eventually casted a Lead the Stampede on some big dumb creatures like a 13/13.
Yeah.
Gave all his creatures plus 13/13, and he
that
just had
was
enough
over.
to steamroll us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had him down to like 1 or 2 health.
He was pretty low.
Because I was able to burn him in the face with Comet Storm.
Yeah.
And killed some of his stuff, but then he had to lead the Stampede, so we just didn't quite get there because he still had all the mana up to counter things.
Exactly. Yeah, and at one point I cast a Naya Charm to tap down all his creatures so I could swing in for what would have been lethal. And he had an Echoing Truth, and I believe he was able to copy it, so he returned all my 5/5 dragons and all my 4/4 rhinos to my hand, and they're all tokens, so Echoing Truth returns all of them, and they're tokens, so I don't get the cards back. So that was pretty. That was what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all tried something and just.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. But despite all that, I ended up getting no points. I really didn't do a lot that game. But you and Riley actually tied for 10 points because you got all those achievements.
Yeah.
And Trevor got 1 point.
We gave him the play of the game.
Right, that's right. Yeah, at the end of each game, you can nominate someone or a play, and we'll all kind of have a discussion and decide what play is the play of the game, and then that person will get 1 point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's going really well, and I'm really excited to. Well, I'm not necessarily excited, but I'm interested to see how our limitations on the cards that we can swap out of our decks will have on, winning and losing kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm really interested because not only are we doing that, but we also have this different point system that we're working with as well. So we're really trying out multiple things to try and kind of make a more engaging kind of like.
As opposed to just winning,
Yeah.
right, or killing players, which is what we're trying to do. But we're also trying to
do some fun things. So.
Yeah, because we could just get together and play Commander.
Exactly. So this is the point of doing other things. So.
Yeah. So we will keep you guys posted on all that.
I guess we could add on that we also decided to try adding in the
Monarch.
The Monarch as a little thing. So what we're doing is from the 6 achievements that we choose at the beginning of the game, we then choose one at random, and if somebody acquires that achievement, they actually become the Monarch.
Yeah.
Just adding that in as a little bonus there. So
yeah, and then it just works as the Monarch works.
yeah. So Riley got that last game because he gave me a permanent. Or he
That's
stole a
right.
Permanent.
So. Stole or exchanged. I can't exactly remember what the
so that was the one that was
stipulation
tied
was.
to that. So on top of getting my ley line, he was also the Monarch.
Yeah, he was. All right, well, I also, before we get to the deck, there's so much stuff here. Before we get to the deck, we'd also like to give a couple of shout outs to the winners of our September Instagram giveaways, or giveaway. Those Instagram folks are T. Bister and MTG Nichols. They were both really great to correspond with, and they also have really great Magic the Gathering Instagram accounts. So
Cool.
If you use Instagram, go check them out and follow them, and I'm sure you will enjoy yourself. So let's get to this Ayara, first of Locthwain.
Yeah.
I did a little look-see into her lore. So I have a little bit of lore here that I'm going to read before we get to the deck.
Let's start with some lore here on Ayara.
That's right. So Queen Ayara is an ancient elf from the days of the Elven Kingdom of Eldraine. She still reigns over the court of Locthwain. Also known as the Shadow Queen, she remained as the ruler of Locthwain rather than withdraw with her people into the wilds after the Elven court had lost control over the realm. Ayara appears young due to the Cauldron of Eternity. I know that card.
Oh, cool.
But she is actually quite old and has buried many lovers over the decades.
Oh.
Yeah, sexy vampires. She secretly partakes in the Wild Hunt, also a card, although it is outlawed in the land. However, she also works to foster peace between humans and elves.
Oh.
And that's it. That's all I got.
That's cool, though.
Yeah. Not as interesting as was that Niv Mizzet Reborn?
But she's also very new.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very new, but also very old.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Niv's been in Magic's history for a long time, so yeah.
Yeah. And he's been reborn, so when something's like reborn, there's going to be some good lore there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the deck.
Yeah, so first of all, let's start off with Ayara herself.
Yeah.
So she's a legendary creature, Elf Noble, 3 black for a 2/3, and so whenever Ayara or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. You can also tap her to sacrifice another black creature and draw a card.
Too bad it's not like extort.
Ooh.
They're probably never going to do that again.
Probably not. So kind of the idea right away was obviously her first triggered ability there. Any black creatures coming in, you're draining all of your opponents.
Yeah, and black creatures that like do what she does.
Yeah.
Right. And there are a few in this deck.
Yeah. So kind of the deck looks to multiply her triggered ability, make a bunch of black creatures, and drain out your opponents to finish off the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start off with some categories here. Starting off, let's make some tokens.
Yeah.
Because that's how her triggered ability works.
So first up, what do we have here?
First up is a pretty fun little sorcery. It's Army of the Damned. So it's 5 of anything and 3 black. You create 13 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. On top of that, the card also has flashback for 7 and 3 black. So this is, of course, a more late game spell. But you're draining your opponents for 13, and you gain 13 health. On top of getting all these 2/2 zombies.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, that is good.
Yeah. Next up, we have just like a little bit of a card that also works with some of the other cards we'll get to later. Desecrated Tomb is a 3-mana artifact. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, you create a 1/1 black bat creature token. So they just have to, with flying.
Yeah.
They just have to leave the graveyard in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Black stuff usually has zombies, so we have the Digraph Colossus. I really like this card a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 2 of anything and 1 black for a zombie giant. Digraph Colossus enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each zombie card in your graveyard. The better part of it, though, is whenever you cast a zombie spell, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, and then, you're draining.
And then you're draining again.
Just more draining.
So on top of that zombie you cast coming into play, you're getting another token alongside it. So that's like 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also a pretty fun little creature. I wouldn't call him little, but... Endrick Sar, Master Breeder.
Oh, he's a 2/2.
He's a 2/2, sure. He's 4 of anything and a black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create X 1/1 black thrall creature tokens, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. When you control 7 or more thralls, sacrifice Endrick Sar, Master Breeder.
Ooh, you have to, hey?
You have to. So, obviously, if you have a way to sacrifice the tokens that you're making, you can keep him around longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll definitely see some combo stuff in there as well later.
Infinite combos?
I do have some infinite combos in here.
Nice, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Ghoul Caller Gisa. So 3 of anything and 2 black for a 3/4 human wizard. She has the ability to tap and pay a black to sacrifice another creature. Put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the sacrifice creature's power.
Okay, so you could sacrifice some thralls doing that.
You could. She has only a 1 use, though. I don't think I have any stuff in the deck to untap things.
Oh, you got to put some stuff in there to untap things. I'm kidding. I don't know what you would put. It's probably artifacts.
Yeah, usually. Moving on, we have the good old Grave Titan. 4 of anything and 2 black for a giant 6/6. He's got Death Touch, and whenever a Grave Titan.
He is a giant.
He's a giant. Whenever a Grave Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, put 2 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on the battlefield.
Because it's just a good card.
It's a solid card.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're playing black, like always look at this guy to see if you can put him in.
Yeah.
But we're gonna cast Grave Titan, and if Ayara is out there, you're gonna drain your opponents for 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And every time you attack, you're going to
2
drain
more.
them for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you really got to deal with Grave Titan if you see it on the other side of the battlefield.
It just creates so much value.
Oh, this next card. I don't think I've ever seen this. Like, I've seen it. I actually opened one recently, and it's not very good. But in this deck,
Cool.
choice. It's Josu Vess, Lich Knight. He's a legendary creature zombie knight. He has Kicker for 5 and a black, and he has Menace. He's a 4/5. When Josu Vess, Lich Knight, enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with Menace. Whew.
You really get in there for damage too.
No kidding. Yeah, this guy's perfect in this deck.
But they're also not tapped like from Army of the Damned. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No kidding.
We have a Commander card next. I'm pretty sure it's only been printed that one time.
Yeah, Commander 2013.
Yeah, so Ophiomancer for 2 of anything in a black. Human Shaman, 2/2. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch.
Yeah, this card is surprisingly expensive.
Yeah, that one Commander printing really makes it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of surprising because you do really need a sacrifice outlet to make it have the value of keep getting a snake every upkeep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next card is Sengir Autocrat. It's 3 and a black for a human 2/2. When Sengir Autocrat enters the battlefield, create 3/0/1 black surf creature tokens. When Sengir Autocrat leaves the battlefield, exile all surf tokens. Do you have any surf tokens in your collection?
No, I don't. This card's in there just because it's kind of funny. Like it's 4 mana to drain your opponents for 4 when Ayara is out there, so that's not so bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of a fun card. I like that.
Yeah. And this is another like old weird one.
Wall of text on this one.
This is so we have a world enchantment, the Tombstone Stairwell. So it's 2 of anything and 2 black. It does have cumulative upkeep of 1 and a black.
Should we explain cumulative upkeep? Or do we think, yeah. Okay.
You can look it up. So at the beginning of each upkeep, if Tombstone Stairwell is on the battlefield, each player puts a 2/2 black zombie creature token with haste named Tombspawn onto the battlefield for each creature card in his or her graveyard. At the beginning of each end step, or when Tombstone Stairwell leaves the battlefield, destroy all tokens put onto the battlefield with Tombstone Stairwell. They can't be regenerated. So everyone's getting a bunch of stuff every upkeep. But of course, this works the best with Ayara out there.
Exactly, yeah, you're getting the most value. And you don't really care about your opponents having a bunch of creatures because you're not going to be attacking if it's not favorable because the idea is that you're draining them for life. That's how you're killing your opponents.
Exactly.
And if they have a bunch of 2/2s, you can just block.
Yeah.
And you're gaining life. So.
Seems pretty good.
So the next category is recurring creatures. So the first one in here is Gravecrawler. So this is 1 and a black for a 2/1 zombie. Gravecrawler can't block. You may cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. And you can control a lot of those.
Yeah, we've already seen before that there are multiple ways. We have multiple zombies and also ways to make zombies, so...
Yeah, this section is really great, this category, because it can kind of help you get those last bits of damage in by just repeatedly casting the same creatures, right? Especially if a sacrifice outlet as well.
Especially. So we're going to see with the recurring creatures and then our sack outlet category next of how this kind of all comes together. Mm-hmm. So next up is a newer one, Gutterbones, which is also 1 black for a 2/1. This one is a skeleton warrior. Gutterbones enters the battlefield tapped. You can pay 1 of anything and a black to return Gutterbones from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn, and only if an opponent lost life this turn.
So yeah, so not quite as good as Reassembling Skeleton.
Not quite as good.
But you can't run 2 Reassembling Skeletons, so here we are.
Here we are.
Next up, we have Nether Trader. It's 2 black for a 1/1 spirit with haste and shadow. Whenever another creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1 black. If you do, return Nether Trader from your graveyard to the battlefield.
That's a little bit of a funky one,
but it's perfect in this deck because you're going to be putting so many, and it's just creature, so tokens are going to make this trigger, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't say creature card.
It just says creature.
Yeah, I believe that's how that works.
Yeah, because tokens technically hit the graveyard and then just go away.
Right.
And then you did mention the Reassembling Skeleton, which is the last one in the category.
Oh, it's here. Yes.
1 of anything in a black for a skeleton warrior 1/1. You can pay 1 of anything in a black to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah, Reassembling Skeleton's really good.
So good.
Okay, so the next category is Sacrifice Outlets. First up, we have Carrion Feeder, which is recently legal in Modern. Carrion Feeder is 1 black for a 1/1 zombie. Carrion Feeder can't block. Sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on Carrion Feeder. Just a great free sacrifice. It's not free, it's 1 mana. 1 mana sacrifice outlet.
Yeah, you have to pay 1 mana.
Yeah, 1 mana and then you
yeah.
No, if it was just 0, if there was a card that was like 0 mana and sacrifice a creature blank, that's a good card.
That's a real good card. I'm going to mention the other creature first. We have Viscera here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, I was before we started recording. I was telling Eric that I've been saying it wrong all these years because we've been saying Viscera Seer, but it's viscera like your organs.
Yes.
So, anyways,
so the Viscera Seer is a 1 black for a 1/1 vampire wizard. You sacrifice a creature to scry 1. This card is so good.
Like what else do you want from a card? That's just perfect. You can sacrifice to itself to scry 1.
Exactly. And if you have a zombie in play, you can keep paying 1 mana with Gravecrawler to sacrifice it to go through your deck, look for what you need.
Yeah, rinse, repeat.
But here's the fun one that works with Gravecrawler.
Okay.
So Phyrexian Altar, which is 3 of anything for an artifact, sacrifice a creature, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not as expensive, not nearly as expensive as it used to be, since it's reprinting in Ultimate Masters, which is always nice. We love that.
Nice. So with Ayara, Phyrexian Altar, and Gravecrawler, and then another zombie in play, it is a lot of cards, but you win the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I win.
You just win. So that's always fun.
Yeah, and it's not like that's a difficult combo to interact with, but still, if you can't, you win. So it's not that degenerate.
Yeah. Because it is also like a 4-card combo, so it's not like the easiest.
It's not Triskelion and Micaeus.
Exactly.
Yeah, or Walking Ballista. That works too.
Those are real broken.
Yeah.
But so there's some fun like combos in the deck that you can get going. And when you get there, it's fun.
Yeah, and the game's got to end at some point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next category is Death Triggers.
We're making a lot of creatures. These creatures are going to die at some point, so might as well
get some value.
Yeah.
So first up, we have Blood Artist. 1 and a black for a vampire is a 0/1. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. What I love about Blood Artist is, and I always seem to forget this, but it's any creature.
Yeah.
So, you just like
your opponent's creatures.
Somebody's mana dork dies. Riley, you're losing a life. You can just play the you lose a life game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fun. Next up, we have the Dictate of Erebos. So this is a 3 of anything and 2 black for an enchantment, which also has flash. Mm-hmm. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature.
That's backbreaking for a lot of decks.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Especially if someone out there is playing like Voltron.
If somebody has an Avacyn on the field and they cast a Wrath, you flash in Dictate, their board's gone.
Yeah.
Especially with this deck, you're making so many little creatures that are going to die. So
yeah, and if you have some sort of infinite recursion thing, you can just wipe everybody's board.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love Dictate. All the Dictates are very good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Falconwrath Noble. It's 3 and a black for a 2/2 vampire with flying. Whenever Falconwrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Hey, it's Blood Artist.
Yeah, just a bigger Blood Artist.
Yeah. Next up is Grave Pact, which is 1 of anything and 3 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature.
So slightly worse Dictate. It is 1 less mana, but the fact that Dictate has flash, I think makes it a much more powerful card.
Yeah.
People stop playing creatures with Grave Pact.
Yes.
With Dictate, you can really
out of nowhere,
blow people out.
Yeah.
Next card is Ogre Slumlord. Oh, I like that. He's a cost 3 and 2 black for a 3/3 Ogre Rogue. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may put a 1/1 black rat creature token onto the battlefield. Rats you control have Death Touch. Rat synergy. Nice. Yeah, that's perfect.
It's really just whenever your creatures are dying. Again, if you have like the Gravecrawler combo out there, you're making more rats as well.
Yes. So another thing about Ogre Slumlord is it's another non-token creature. Again, it's not just your creatures, which
Yes.
makes it so much better.
Yeah, so if someone else's creatures are dying too. And then if there's like a board wipe, you're like, oh, I got a bunch of rats.
Would the rats be on the field after the board wipe?
Yeah, because like the board wipe hits,
Yeah.
Over Slumlord's out there with everything dying.
Yeah.
So whatever dies there, the rats come.
Okay, so his trigger goes on the stack.
Because the stuff has to die.
Right.
So
okay.
for stuff
So
to die, the
this
rat is
has
gonna
to
go
resolve.
off.
Yeah,
Things
and then
die,
the trigger goes.
and
Okay.
then the rats come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like playing with you guys.
Alrighty. And we were making rats. How about we make something else? Overseer of the Damned is 5 anything and 2 black. It's a 5/5 flying demon.
Nice.
When Overseer of the Damned enters the battlefield, you may destroy target creature. Just a little bit of removal. Mm-hmm. And then whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token.
I gotta say, I really like this deck so far.
It seems pretty fun.
Yeah, it does. It's just mono black is so fun because it feels like you have all the tools of all the other colors. Like apart from enchantment removal, and I suppose artifact removal, like you can run like Spine of Ishsaw, which is a card that we both love.
Exactly.
But it just feels like you are playing with a full deck, you know?
Exactly,
As opposed to the other colors where it's just like, I feel like something's missing. But mono black is just, it's choice.
You just got to pay some life.
You do. It's like, whatever, life is not, 40 of it, it's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
So the next card we have here is Sir Conrad the Grim.
Mm-hmm.
He is a human knight, 5/4. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. And
There's a lot of stipulations there. Pretty much if anything happens, your opponents are taking a damage.
Stop what you're doing. And he has an activated ability, 1 and a black. Each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. So if you get infinite mana, just and you got to make sure you have the most cards.
You do, yeah.
Then
you
you're
could
good.
mill people out. Mm-hmm. But it's also like his ability, a creature is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield. Mm-hmm. So if you mill everybody, everyone mills a creature, your opponents take 4 damage.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So you don't even need to mill them out.
Yeah. He's good.
Yeah, I like that whole cycle.
Yeah. Next up, we have Vindictive Vampire. So 3 of anything in a black for a 2/3 vampire. Whenever another creature you control dies, Vindictive Vampire deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life.
Nice.
Yeah, this one's good because it's each opponent.
Yeah. But you don't gain the life equal to the life lost this way. That'd be nice. That would be fast. Oh, this next one. This is a Mikaeus, the Unhallowed All-Star right here.
Hey.
Zulaport Cutthroat. It's 1 and a black for a human rogue ally, 1/1. Whenever a Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's also fun to say cutthroat. It's just a fun word.
Yeah, cutthroat. Cutthroat.
But he's not a pirate. I would think a pirate would be.
Yeah, that's a good thing. He's I guess he's a rogue.
Yeah, for sure. You can't do like human rogue pirate ally. I don't think that would fit. That's almost at the set symbol. Yeah.
So the next category I have named For the Mana.
That's right.
Yeah. So black has some good ways of making some mana, and obviously, as we've seen, if we can get more mana somehow, this deck should just kind of go off.
I would say that black is the second best color at ramping.
Yeah.
Inside its own colors.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. So first up, we have good old Black Market. So it's 3 of anything and 2 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, or your first main phase, add 1 black to your mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. This can get real out of hand.
If you it says pre-combat main phase, so if you had a card like Relentless Assault, like after this combat phase is an additional
Combat phase? There's no main phase still.
Well, some extra combat phase cards do say you get an additional after this main phase. There's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So, no, that wouldn't be a pre because you've
had combat, I think, already. So I don't think you can get to pre-combat again.
Okay, so it's only even if you have like combat. So like you do combat, you have as your next main phase, and then you're going to do combat again. That's it's just the very first one that it cares about.
The beginning of your pre-combat main phase.
It's an interesting. We should.
That's something to look up.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. All right, yeah, Black Market, great card.
Yeah,
just amazing. Anyways, got off on a little tangent there. The next card here we have is Caged Sun. It's 6 mana for an artifact. As Caged Sun enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1. Whenever a land's ability causes you to add 1 or more mana of the chosen color, add 1 additional mana of that color.
Mana doubler.
Yeah, this is great because it also hits non-basic lands, unlike a few other mana doublers.
Yeah, that's true. So any kind of land you have, you can just like double the mana on it of that color.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Cryptghast. 3 of anything in a black for a spirit. He has Extort, which we were talking about before. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add black to your mana pool. So this one only cares about swamps.
Yes.
So if you do have, like, say, a Watery Grave, that is a swamp.
That counts, yeah. Or Witch's Cottage, that counts.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Next up, we have one of my favorite cards.
Ooh.
Extraplanar Lens. It's 3 mana for an artifact. It has Imprint. When Extraplanar Lens enters the battlefield, you may exile target land you control. Whenever a land with the same name as the exiled card is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. And I did see here, you do have the snow-covered swamps, so
that's good. The way to do it.
You did it.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Magus of the Coffers. So he's 4 of anything for a 4/4 human wizard. You can pay 2 and tap the Magus to add a swamp for each swamp you control. Yeah. If you have all the swamps out there, just make a bunch.
Cabal Coffers on a stick.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Nirkana Revenant. She is 4 and 2 black for a vampire shade. I think that's like a shadow, but I'm not sure.
It's in the shade.
Oh, okay. Well, they can't be in the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like me. She is a 4/4. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional black to your mana pool. And you can pay 1. Nirkana Revenant gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So you can one-shot somebody with enough black mana. Yeah. I do like little like secondary abilities that. Like in limited, you're like, yeah, you're dead.
Yeah. That's always fun. So this next one is a little newer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pitiless Plunderer. So he's 3 of anything in a black for a human pirate. 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token, which taps for any color mana.
Yeah,
sacrifice it.
Yeah, this guy is really great in this deck, but this was a great limited card because it allowed you to play kind of 4 colors in Rivals of Ixalan Limited.
Yeah, nice.
That was a very fun deck. It's just like 4 color good stuff.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
But this guy just we're making all those tokens. They're going to be dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next one is Soul Ring. You know it.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Play a certain one.
You knew it was going to be in the deck. Come
on. Next up, we have the Thought Vessel. This is a nice little artifact. 2 of anything. You have no max hand size, and you can just tap it for a colorless mana.
Surprisingly expensive card. It's like $12.
Yeah.
On Card Kingdom last time I bought one. It's good, but it just needs to be printed.
It just needs another print.
It's like when Miriam Landscape was sitting around $3-4, and then it was printed in Masters 25, and now it's 50 cents.
Yeah.
So
we just need something like that to happen to the Thought Vessel.
Yeah, come on. Don't do a set like Masters 25 again, but do a good one. Last here in this category is Thran Dynamo. 4 mana for an artifact. Tap to add 3 mana to your mana pool.
Solid mana rock.
Love this card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is I think I had 3 things in this category 4 that double mana. Mm-hmm. Just like a lot of ways just to get extra mana out there.
And that's what black does.
Yeah.
black is so good at doubling black mana or swamps. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
you should put doubling cube in the deck.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's that good. I think it's better in like multiple color decks. But
That's fair.
anyways,
So after we get some mana, I think we need some card draw.
that's what every deck needs, right? Mana, card draw.
Yeah. So let's start it off with the Dark Prophecy, which is 3 of anything for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life.
Actually, didn't know this card existed.
M14? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we have God Eternal Bantu. 3 and 2 black for a zombie god, 5/6 with menace. When God Eternal Bantu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. And like all the God Eternals, when God Eternal Bantu dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. Tough to get rid of.
Super tough to get rid of. And in this deck, you're drawing so many cards of Bantu.
Oh yeah, and it's other permanents too. So if you just if you don't need some lands,
Yeah.
I hate to sacrifice lands, but sometimes you just need the gas.
Exactly. If you need to draw those cards, you're there. Or if you do have a lot of artifacts from the Pitiless Plunderer, you can just sack those to draw cards.
That's right. Turn that mana into card draw.
Next up, we have a good old classic, Greed. 3 of anything and a black for an enchantment. You pay 1 black and 2 life to draw a card. No tapping or anything. You can kill yourself by drawing cards.
And sometimes that's the most dignified thing you can do.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'm just gonna ancient tomb myself every turn until I'm dead.
Sometimes. Gotta do it.
Next up, we have Harvester of Souls, 4 and 2 black for a 5/5 demon with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card.
And it's just any creature. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Just, can't be tokens.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm saying, yeah. Your opponent's creatures.
Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he's really good.
Next up, we have some nice little spells. Read the Bones, which is 2 of anything in a black for a sorcery. You scry 2, then you draw 2 cards, and you lose 2 life.
Efficient.
Just good card to get through some cards.
Man, is there anything black can't do besides enchantment and artifact removal?
Yeah. Come on.
Next up, we have Sign in Blood. It's 2 black for a sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. So never forget that it's target player. So if somebody is at 2 life,
You could kill them.
yeah, you can get them.
Next up, we have an artifact by the name of Skull Clamp. So
Just perfect.
Oh, it's so good. So the Skull Clamp is 1 mana to play. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever a equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards, and the equip cost is 1 mana. So a lot of times,
Yeah, this card in decks like this is just...
Oh yeah,
I wish it could be the commander.
we are making 1/1 tokens, so we can just instantly kill those.
Yeah.
And then if you don't, we do have sacrifice outlets as well to like put this on a zombie token, sack it to draw even more cards. So
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
sounds like it should be gas.
Next up, we have Smothering Abomination. It's 2 and 2 black for a 4/3 Eldrazi. It has Devoid. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card.
So just whenever you sacrifice a creature, yeah,
Yeah. And even if it's the only creature on the battlefield and you sack it at the beginning of your upkeep, you'll still draw a card. So
Yeah,
it's not, it's not terrible.
Put Skull Clamp onto a zombie token, sacrifice it, draw 3 cards with the Abomination out there. Ooh yeah.
Yeah, I just meant it's not terrible in that situation.
Oh.
Don't get me wrong. Smothering
No.
Abomination is fantastic.
Yeah, no.
Like, in this
I was
deck.
just saying that like I want to draw 3 cards that way.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like
Oh yeah, you'll be doing a lot of stuff with this deck. Rest assured.
oh yeah. Next up,
Got some devotion plays.
yeah. So we're making a lot of things that have black mana pips. So you might as well have some things to do some stuff with those black mana pips. The first one is the
Abhorrent.
Abhorrent. Is that what it is?
You got it.
All right. Abhorrent Overlord, 5 anything and 2 black for a 6/6 flying demon. When Abhorrent Overlord enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 black harpy creature tokens with flying equal to your devotion to black.
Do you have the Black Harpy creature tokens?
No.
Just when I see like off tokens like
Yeah,
this,
like, do you have
I
that?
think do I have any of those?
Yeah.
Was I playing limited then?
Should find a time to like look for weird tokens and just buy some.
Yeah, well those the I think the 1/1 sliver tokens from Legions. I think that's like a $10 token. So, and that's just one token from Legions,
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
search your bulk.
Yeah.
Listeners.
You gotta have some money tokens in there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up in devotion plays, we have the famous Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
Good old Gary.
Oh yeah. 3 and 2 black for a 2/4 zombie. I feel like he should have flying. He looks like he can fly, but
Right?
he doesn't have flying.
Yeah.
When Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way.
I've seen many games on with this card.
Yeah.
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 Especially if you have like a Panharmonicon out and you can bounce him to your hand. Yeah, that's dirty.
So good. All right, next up, I named this one value plays. There's some value cards just to have in the deck.
Yeah, just good stuff.
Yeah, just some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So first up is a new one. Bolus's Citadel. So it's 3 of anything and 3 black for a legendary artifact. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost.
And you're gaining so much life with this deck that I feel like it's not going to hurt very much to do that.
And it does also have another ability. You can tap it to sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. Each opponent.
Yeah, and the only thing that would make this better is if you gain the life equal to the life lost that way. But this is fantastic because you're going to have so many tokens, and how many games have we played where people are sitting at 10 or under life, like all of us, and you're just like, boom, you're dead.
Or also like out of nowhere, if you have like Citadel and Ayara out and a bunch of other cards, and you play like the abhorrent Overlord. Oh man, that word. You get a bunch of tokens to drain them, and then you can sacrifice those tokens to drain them 10 more.
Oof, yeah.
Seems pretty good.
It's rough. Okay, next up we have the White Wrath of God. It's Damnation. 2 and 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated.
Gotta have some wraths.
You do.
Next up is Erebos, God of the Dead. So he's a legendary enchantment creature, god, indestructible. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. Your opponents can't gain life. That's the good part there.
That hurts.
Yeah. We're draining throughout the game, so if they just can't gain life at any point, you feel a lot better about how your game's going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, we can pay 1 of anything in a black to pay 2 life and draw a card.
Yeah.
One a little more expensive than greed.
Well, yeah, but I would say that the gods in general are more difficult to get rid of than enchantments.
Yeah.
Because you need an exile effect.
On an enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
That's very...
Or a sacrifice effect, but you generally target a player with those. Or, you need like an all is dust. And that's not very beneficial generally.
Usually.
I feel like if you're casting an all is dust, you're in a colorless deck, or you have Ghost Flame Sliver on the board. So
yeah.
Next up we have Fleshbag Marauder. 2 and a black for a 3/1 zombie warrior. When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature.
Just combos well with some other cards in the deck. So and it's a zombie.
Yeah.
Next up, we mentioned this early in the episode. Crick, Son of Yawgmoth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 4 of anything and 3 Phyrexian mana. For each black in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. And also, whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on Crick, Son of Yawgmoth. He does have lifelink as well, I forgot to mention.
Yeah, this could... Crick early on in the game, allows you to cast Ayara for free.
Yeah.
Without paying mana. And with Ayara, if you can cast more creatures, you're gaining life. You're losing life, but you're also gaining life. Like I feel like you could really get out of hand very, very quickly with Crick.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that really plays out, because it's really now like you're paying 1 life for the black man instead of 2 with Ayara right there.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to think about it.
I guess if it's a 1-drop, if it's a 2-drop, well, whatever. You get my point.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yes.
Okay.
Next up, we have Liliana Dreadhorde General. 4 and 2 black for a legendary planeswalker. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card.
Ooh.
Pay 1, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. -4. Did I say pay 1?
You did say pay 1.
I meant +1. She's a planeswalker.
Pay 1 what?
Just pay 1. -4, each player sacrifices 2 creatures. And -9, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. Oof. And what is she? She's a 6 loyalty planeswalker. Wow, she's good.
7 on the first turn, so 8, 9.
So on the 4th turn, she's out. If you only plus her, you could do the ultimate. Yikes. Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
No, the 3rd turn she's out.
3rd turn she's out, yeah.
I could tell you were like thinking, you're like, I don't think that's right, Kevin.
I really want to do that in a Commander game. It's just such a brutal ultimate.
Yeah, it's like tragic arrogance, but you're fine.
Yeah. Next up, this guy's a Commander All-Star.
Yeah, and kind of an expensive card.
Yeah, I should have bought one a while ago.
I think it's around like $25 or something. Oof. Yeah.
It's Massacre Worm. So 3 of anything and 3 black for a worm who is a 6/5. When Massacre Worm enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, that player loses 2 life.
Yeah, this synergizes. Well, the fact that it's a one-sided board wipe is incredibly powerful, but also that you're just with all the sacrifice outlets and all the grave pact kind of stuff you got going on, you're just going to drain those players just more and more and more and more.
Oh, yeah.
This card is just backbreaking. And with Crick, he only costs 3.
Hey.
Next up, we have the best board wipe.
I think so.
In the game?
I think so.
It's, because it gets around Gaddock Teeg. It's Toxic Deluge. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X/-X until end of turn. Yeah, the fact that it gets around Gaddock Teeg and that
it can get rid of Indestructible.
Yeah, and that you can, it's a selective board wipe. You can control what gets removed to a certain extent. It just makes it that good. And also, I think it's gotten up to about $30 because it's just in the one Commander set and Eternal Masters. It hasn't been printed since Eternal Masters.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a long time ago.
Yeah.
Eternal Masters. And you think about it. It doesn't seem like it, but
it is.
It was quite a few years ago now.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple situations where it's like late game, you're like, crap, I only have like 5 health.
Yeah, that happens, but
other than that, like it's the best.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So we're moving categories here.
I like this, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you get what you need.
That's right.
So first up, Dark Petition, which is 3 of anything and 2 black for a sorcery. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library, so we can tutor for whatever. This also has Spell Mastery, so if there are 2 or more instant sorcery cards in your graveyard, you get 3 black mana to your mana pool. So really it only costs 2.
Yeah, I like that you didn't put an Empiric Tutor in this deck. You're like, you know what? I'm not gonna go nuts.
Yeah, we're not gonna go balls to the wall.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But next up, we do have Demonic Tutor. It's 1 and a black for sorcery. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library.
So this card is getting up there, but it's still at a decent price because of the recent printing in Ultimate Masters last year.
I think it's still sitting around like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like just below 20
when it was first reprinted, but it shot up to 25 real quick.
So if you don't have one of these, it's a good time to get one still, I think.
Yeah, just add it to your collection and have it. It's just... I think it's a little bit better than Vampiric Tutor from the perspective that it doesn't... Vampiric Tutor and those other tutors give you card disadvantage.
Yeah, because it goes to the top of your library.
Yeah, with this, it goes to your hand. You can use it that turn if you have the mana. It's just very hard to argue with that.
Yeah, and for 2 mana,
there's nothing better.
No,
yeah,
it's so good. Next up, this one's a little more expensive in terms of mana cost. Diabolic Tutor is 2 of anything and 2 black for a sorcery to search your library for a card and put it in your hand.
In terms of financial cost, it's probably
50 cents.
Yeah, yes. And lastly is Expedition Map. It's 1 mana for an artifact, pay 2, sacrifice, Expedition Map, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Oh, you have to tap it, but is that relevant? I don't know.
No. As we get to the lands, you'll want to tutor out some lands. So Expedition Map's always a nice little bonus.
Also, you can get lands with any of the 3 cards we just talked about.
Correct.
So,
yes.
Don't forget about that.
Next up, we have said black is kind of bad at getting rid of artifacts or enchantments. So sometimes it's just good to have some stuff in your deck to deal with things like that. Someone plays a Rest in Peace or something, that is not the best for this deck.
Not good. No.
So we do have a Meteor Golem, which is 7 mana for a 3/3 artifact golem. When the Meteor Golem enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Just hit anything.
Next up, we have Spine of Ishsaw. It's 7 mana for an artifact. When Spine of Ishsaw enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent. When Spine of Ishsaw is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Spine of Ishsaw to its owner's hand.
So there's no ways to get rid of it in this deck by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can always, if something's a problem, you can kind of like work it out with somebody at the table maybe.
Sure.
But it's still getting rid of it permanent.
And in our last game, I played Chaos Wand.
Yeah.
And Trevor actually said that that's, he mentioned that that could be a good card in his deck because it could potentially deal with things that black can't do, which is artifact and enchantment removal, which I hadn't actually thought about. I just put it in the deck to kind of stir shit up.
Yeah.
But that's that.
Card.
Yeah, but that was a very apt assessment of that card because you really could do that. I'm not saying run it in this deck or any of your decks, but you could potentially hit something like that to deal with something. But
it does still have heavy randomness to it.
Yes, it is a chaos wand, so don't rely on that.
Don't rely on chaos.
But, yeah, I just thought I should mention that.
Yeah. So with this deck, while I was building it, it felt like it was a pretty decent deck. Obviously, you don't get to play with it. I've just built it.
Yeah,
So
you're not allowed to play with it.
No. Because of this, I thought it's always good to have just some like single card that do some real good things or ways to just end the game right away as well.
Sure.
So we are making a lot of mana. So let's throw Exsanguinate into the deck.
You got to.
Yeah. So this card is X and 2 black for sorcery. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. In our last league.
Many a games.
Oh, man.
We're one with Exsanguinate. It was just like, I had to put a Beseiju who shelters all into my deck so you guys wouldn't counter my Exsanguinate.
Because you're always going for that.
Or Torment of Hailfire, which is also
in here,
yes. All right, next up we have Living Death. It's 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards they exiled this way onto the battlefield.
So this is always an interesting card.
Yeah, this is just a fun card. I like this card a lot. I run it in my Slivers deck now.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
Yeah,
it's a fun card. It's quite interesting as well because since you are the active player, if there's a lot of ETBs that happen, you're the active player, so yours go onto the stack first, but then they resolve last.
Exactly.
So that's always a thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Next up is Rise of the Dark Realms. So 7 of anything and 2 black for a sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Mm-hmm. I like.
Yeah, that's just great.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
If this is late game, you cast that, no one has anything to deal with anything, you probably won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Torment of Hailfire. It's X black for a sorcery. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. An interesting thing happened that because these cards are Rise of the Dark Realms and Torment of Hailfire kind of together in this list. If you remember one of our games last year in the C18 League, Trevor casted Rise of the Dark Realms and it resolved and he got all our creatures. And then on my turn, I casted Torment of Hailfire and X was, 30-something.
Something dumb, yeah.
And, yeah, he, even with all those creatures, still dead. Yeah. And it was a good chunk. Like, it extended past his playmat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Torment of Hailfire, just a fantastic card.
Game ender.
Just a good game ender. And, I think it's in the area of... or in the arena of Triumph of the Hordes kind of thing, like kind of a saltier card. But, like we always say, the game's got to end.
Yeah, sometimes the game's got to end.
Yeah, you can just shuffle up and play another game.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Also, you don't always have to, if this is in your hand and game hasn't gone on very long, sometimes you can, wait a little bit, see if you can win a different way.
Sure, and it can be a really great way to like hobble your opponents and get back into the game,
That
right?
as well,
Like you're
yeah.
not always casting Cyclonic Rift because you're going to win the game.
Exactly. If you're about to die or something, even with just like Sanguinate, you can gain a good 30, 40 life
To stay in the game.
to stay in the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, good utility cards.
For sure. All right, so some of these lands we can probably just go through pretty quickly.
I like that it's the least exciting part of the deck, but you put an exclamation point after lands.
It's lands. All right, so start off with Baron Moor. It enters tapped, but you can pay a black to to cycle it. I do like having this card in decks just because if you play it early, you shouldn't have too much problem with that.
Yeah,
and
with
if you
it-
draw
yeah.
it late, you're just like, well, I'm going to get a different card.
Yeah, and cycling is instant speed, so
Yeah.
they're good to have. Next up is Bojuka Bog. I run this in all my black decks.
If you're running black, I just think you should run Bojuka Bog.
Yeah, it's a removal spell on a land.
Yeah.
Bojuka Bog enters the battlefield tapped. When Bojuka Bog enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. And it taps for a black.
Sure does. Buried Ruin is a neat one.
Yeah, I love Buried Ruin.
Yeah, it's really cool. It does just tap for colorless. You can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice the ruin, return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, and it's not like you don't have that many. Like there are a few, all the artifacts in this deck are good artifacts. You want them in the deck, but there are a few artifacts like if you can get a meteor golem back to your hand, that's another
nice.
removal spell, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that I think Buried Ruin is kind of an underrated card.
I think so too. If someone has targeted down, say your Caged Sun or something, you can always get that back.
And those expensive like Academy Ruins, which is quite a expensive card as far as cards go, that puts it back on top of your library. Like sometimes you need it, sort of like Demonic Tutor versus Vampiric Tutor. You want that in your hand this
away.
turn.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Next up, we have Cabal Coffers. You got to run this.
Yeah.
You pay. It's a land, of course! Exclamation point. You pay 2, tap it, add 1 black for each swamp you control. So.
Oh, that's exactly what. We.
That's
said
what. Yeah,
before.
Magus of Magus of the
Magus of the
Coffers.
Coffers,
does.
yeah. Cabal Coffers. They're coffers. Coughing.
That's right. don't start doing that because I'm going to start doing Pokemon's.
Oh boy.
It's a slippery slope.
People are like, what are Pokemon? What is happening here? Next up, we got the Cabal Stronghold. Kind of like the Coffers. It just costs 1 more to add a swamp, but this one only cares about
Basic swamps.
basic swamps.
Yeah,
which still counts
tone it down.
the snow-covered swamp, because
Yep,
that's a basic.
they are basics. Yeah, and it adds a colorless to your mana pool.
Yes.
If you just tap it for the
So
regular.
you can just tap by itself, while Cabal Coffers, you need to tap for the ability.
Yes, that's right. Next up, we have Castle Locthwain. Castle Locthwain enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp. And it taps for a black. You can pay 1 and 2 black to tap it and draw a card. Then you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. And that's actually where Ayara lives.
Oh, cool.
In that Star Destroyer looking
right.
castle.
Yeah. Star Destroyer. Of course, I just want to mention about this land.
Yeah.
You just need one other Swampert to come in untapped, and it still taps for black.
Yeah, this whole cycle of the rare lands from Eldraine, there's very little downside, and I think we probably mentioned this in our set review,
Yeah.
because unless you're playing this turn 1, like in a monocolored deck, unless you're playing this turn 1, it's not going to be coming in tapped because you will likely have another swamp
So it comes in untapped.
yeah, or whatever that that will allow it to come in untapped, and it just cares about swamps. Doesn't care about basic swamps. So whatever you got, even if like a witch's cottage
Still counts.
comes in untapped. So these lands, there's very very little downside to running these lands.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Command Beacon, which taps for a colorless. But the cool part is you can tap to sacrifice the Command Beacon. You put your commander into your hand from the command zone. So if that commander tax is getting way too high, we can skip by it one time.
Command Beacon really needs a reprint.
Reprint.
Also, follow my Instagram account, Command Beacon on Instagram.
Low plug.
All right, next up we have Deserted Temple. Oh, this is such a good land, especially with Cabal Coffers. So Deserted Temple taps for a colorless mana, and you can pay 1 to tap Deserted Temple to untap target land.
You're really banking the mana.
Exactly.
When you have the coffers or even the stronghold out.
Yeah, the Stronghold is great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and especially like you have 19 basic swamps in this deck, so like I think you're going to be getting enough value off of those lands that care about swamps to make it worthwhile. And extra planar lands, don't forget about that. You have the double in mana. Whew, I love mono black.
Oh boy. So next up, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. This is a legendary land. You can tap it for a colorless, but the better part is you can tap it for pay 2 and tap it to choose a color, add to your mana pool an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color.
Just a fantastic commander card. I'm actually surprised at how cheap this card is. It's still like sitting around $10 to $12.
And it was printed so long ago.
Yeah, it's like 4 years ago now.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
just interesting how its price is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like that whole block is kind of like the sealed product is still like relatively low value. I think like Born of the Gods is not a very expensive set. Anyways.
Can't remember which ones have because I still think the God cards are really good.
Oh, of course they
Yeah,
are.
I guess those are like the chase cards, and that's it.
Yeah, because some of them are quite valuable. Like Perforos is, I think, an over $20 card.
Yeah.
And all the other ones, like Thassa, I think is around 15. Like they're all, and they're good cards. Like they're fantastic commander cards. They're fantastic commanders.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Next up, we have Phyrexian Tower. It's a legendary land. You can tap it for a colorless mana, and you can tap it to sacrifice a creature to add 2 black to your mana pool. This is essentially ramp in this deck with all the tokens you're creating. It pretty much, I think most of the time, you're going to be tapping it for 2. It's like an ancient tomb that produces black but doesn't deal damage to you.
Correct, yeah.
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 And it just got reprinted in not just, but it got reprinted in Ultimate Masters less than a year ago. So this card is still pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's again one of those cards is a good time to get it. Yeah. We have the Reliquary Tower, so this just taps for colorless and max hand size. Good card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a monocolored deck, you can afford to run more colorless producing mana. Like we said, there's 19 snow-covered swamps in this deck. Synergizes well with obviously Cabal Stronghold, but also Extraplanar Lens, and then nobody else is getting the value off of Extraplanar Lens. So we've said it before, but if you're running a monocolored deck, just run the snow-covered lands and run Extraplanar Lens.
Good to go.
You can thank us later. Unless it starts to happen that everyone starts doing it, then you can go back to regular basics and just kind of ride the tide. You know what I mean? It's like the
See
stock
how it's
market.
going,
Just you'll figure it out.
After that, we got Strip Mine. Always got to have a Strip Mine because you can sacrifice it to destroy target land.
Yeah, never a bad idea to put a strip mine in a deck.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Legendary land. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types. So you're making that Cabal Coffers tap for mana. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Also, though, it turns your other cards into swamps. That Cabal Coffers cares about those lands as swamps.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, too bad it doesn't turn them into snow-covered swamps.
Oh, so close.
The name of the card is now Snow-Covered Swamp.
So this next card is actually a pricey one.
Reserve list.
Right, that's why.
Yeah.
Volrath Stronghold. So it's a legendary land. You can tap it for colorless mana. One of anything in a black taps to put a target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library.
Yeah. This was in my top 10 lands.
Yeah. Good land.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to get the card back.
Yeah.
You know? Ooh, nice. I didn't even see this here. Next up, we have Westvale Abbey. It is a flip card from Shadows over Innistrad. So it's a land. The land side is you tap for a colorless mana, and you can pay 5 to tap it, pay 1 life, create a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token. Or you can pay 5, tap it, sacrifice 5 creatures, transform Westvale Abbey, then untap it. Its flip side is... What is it? It's a 9/7 with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste.
Ooh, yeah.
And, it's not going to be hard to sacrifice 5 creatures.
Not at all. What's that card called?
Oh, it's called...
Is it like Normandal? Ormandal, Profane Prince.
Nice.
With Grizzlebrand gone, the Skursdag early awaited another demon to claim their devotion. Ormandal did not make them wait too long.
That's probably right after they banned Grizzlebrand and Commander.
Probably. Definitely way after.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
Certainly
the new
not
land,
least. Yeah.
Witch's Cottage.
I think we've mentioned this a couple of times.
I think we have. Witch's Cottage taps for black. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other swamps. When Witch's Cottage enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. A little of extra value.
This whole cycle, well, not this whole cycle, but the black and the blue one are great. Mm-hmm. As they often are,
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a swamp. That's the best part.
Right, yes.
These are fetchable. Not that we're doing that in this deck, but you could run, a Prismatic Vista or a Fabled Passage in this deck if you just want to kind of have shuffle effects, but we don't really need that.
Yeah.
There's no Sensei's Divining Top or Scroll Rack or anything like that.
Don't really need anything like that.
Yeah. And, we're drawing so many cards that we don't need to rearrange things. And if we need something specific, we can just tutor for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a really solid deck that you built.
It looks really fun. I really want to kind of build it and give it a go.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's not terribly expensive. The average CMC is a little on the high side. It's 3.95, but it's not. But I think it has the potential to be really fast. But I think it does have a lot of longevity in games, which is, which is a lot of fun sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely not up there in tier power, but just with a little higher average CMC. That's why I put in so many mana doublers.
Exactly.
Yeah, just to make sure that you will have one.
Mm-hmm. It's too bad there's not a metric for that, right? Because we use a site like Deckstats, and you put on a card like, Cyclonic Rift, right? The average CMC is 2.
But you're going to want to be casting that for 7.
It's rare that you cast it for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, we just got distracted looking at a cat. It's too bad there's not something like that where it takes into consideration the ramp or the probabilities, because Deckstats has the probabilities of turns, but other than lands, it's what you're going to draw. So the basic lands have a higher probability, and everything else is the exact same probability. So I think the higher CMC isn't as much of a issue with this deck.
I was thinking that it might not, just for throwing in so many of those mana doublers and stuff to get you more mana. So
yeah. Well, it looks like a lot of fun. Yeah, I really like this. Really like this commander. It's too bad there's not more lore. I was really, when I read about all the lovers she's buried over the decades, there's
a lot of stuff you could have with that.
Yeah, you could have a whole teen WB drama with that. So yeah, I would watch it. I'm not knocking that kind of thing. I watch Riverdale, So
oh yeah,
yeah, whatever blows your hair back.
I definitely used to watch Gilmore Girls back in the day.
Yeah, I was never a Gilmore Girls guy, but I did watch. Remember Student Bodies?
I do remember that.
Yeah. That was sort of I don't know if it was exactly in the same vein, but it's definitely that level of just I don't have to think about this too much.
No, exactly.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up the show.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that was Eric's Ayara, first of Locthwain deck tech.
Ayara, drain you out.
That's right. And you can find that on Deckstats. There's a link to both Eric and I's Deckstats accounts in the show notes, and we'll also have a direct link to this particular deck. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Instagram at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. I'm on Instagram at Command Beacon, and you can email us at turn1soulringthepodcast@gmail.com. We're currently doing our October Instagram giveaway of a Throne of Eldraine Collector's Booster Pack. You can enter that giveaway by finding the post on the podcast Instagram page and following the instructions there, and we'll announce the winner of that giveaway in just a few days on November 1st. I guess it's not a few days. It's like a couple weeks, but I don't know why I wrote that.
Get ahead of yourself. That's all.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just excited for the holidays. You know, like I love Halloween, but as soon as like Halloween's over, like on Remembrance Day, that's when we decorate the house for Christmas.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we pull the tree out. Yeah, the cats love it. Abra like jumps on the tree and like just you gotta like threaten to hit him and he runs away.
What are you doing, cat?
And you can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whichever you like to call it. I still call it iTunes. Google Play, SoundCloud. We're also now on Stitcher and Spotify. And actually, I was doing a little, I'll just do like a Google search of the podcast every now and then. And we're like on podcast platforms that I haven't
put the RSS feed to or whatever.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just weird. Like, and podcast platforms I've never heard of.
Sure, yeah.
So if you listen on those, great. You know, I don't know who's doing it, but great.
Wherever you find us, happy you're listening.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And wherever you listen to us, give us a rate and review. 5 stars. You know, just 5 stars or nothing. That's
5 stars or nothing.
But yes, thank you. Thank you all so much for listening. And we'll see you. Well, maybe we'll see you in the future, but we'll definitely talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.